Welcome to the Sister Street Show with Mary Nunnally and Sharon Aguirre, a docu-series, interactive show, and virtual playground where we explore topics around entrepreneurship, online and in-person events, and the games that can be played with all of it. We invite you on our journey of sisterhood discovery and trial error in the adventures of online entrepreneurship. Follow a series or subscribe to the quest.
In a lot of emails, you can set it up where you just see the sender and the subject line, or you can get a preview of the email in your inbox. Does that count towards the open rate? So it's like I have mine set to show the preview, but I never clicked open. So it's like, no, I'm not interested in this. Yeah, that first paragraph told me what I wasn't going to need this information.
Exactly. So the answer is At the time of this recording, the two largest inbox managers, if you will, iOS and Gmail, have changed the way their software, if you will, reads an email to essentially not make a difference. So for various reasons, they have decided that they are going to mark every email that hits an inbox as open according to my perspective. Now, with the two biggest providers doing that, your open rates are kind of useless, if you will. Now, I personally haven't seen a change in my open rate, but this change has been implemented just this summer, so it may not have resonated quite yet, right? It's probably being rolled out across venues. In the past, no. If somebody just looked at it in preview mode, that would not count as an open because they'd actually have to view the full thing for what we call a pixel. If you want to get into the nitty gritty, there's a pixel associated with your particular email that fires and sends you that notification. It's a whole thing. And I don't want to.
Yeah, no, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
I probably don't even understand the full tech behind it.
I was just curious. So because when I say I don't read them, that's because I don't click the open button, but I am reading the preview. And if you don't have a good catch or a good hook in that first paragraph, then I'm probably not going to open it because it's like you didn't grab my attention in that 10 minutes that I have scrolling my 1,000 emails to make me go, I want to open and I want more information.
Yeah. And, I do the same, right? I look at my previews and if it's enough, okay, yeah, I want to read more, I'll open it. But that's also something to keep in mind. That's one of the reasons why I rail against anyone who relies strictly on open rates, because I'm like, look, maybe that person didn't open it, but they still stopped. They still pressed preview. They still remember who you are. You were still important enough for them to see, okay, is this a message I want to read? So maybe they're not opening every email, but they still remember who you are. You're still important in their inbox, right? As opposed to, well, I had a 50% open rate on that. I'm amazing. And I'm like, great. What did it do for you? What do you mean? 50% of your list opened your email. That's fantastic. Did they take action? Did they do what you wanted them to do?
I love it.
Did they become a client? Did they move further along the path to becoming a buyer? When people rely on what I call vanity metrics, and most other people will do too, or with open rates, it's kind of like an ancillary metric, especially since they're changing what this means. But at the end of the day, I have an 80% open rate to the bank, right? Just like I have 10,000 subscribers to the bank. Bank doesn't care. Bank cares if you've got 10,000 people paying you. That's what's important. So when we talk about email and how to make sure it's working for us, what you need to do is set your own goals. So forget about everybody else. It's your business. You get to decide what success looks like. So before you even start a welcome series, I challenge people to say, okay, what do you want them ready to do at the end? And then I say, okay, what would success look like for you? So once a month, you get 5 new people into your Facebook group. Once a month, you have at least 2 new discovery calls that came from a welcome series that you didn't talk to this person personally, and they were just ready to get on a chat with you. What does success look like? And that's how you measure if your emails are working or not. And you evaluate that. And then it's a rolling basis, right? So, one of my clients, we set up her guidelines And it was, she wanted steady, right? She's like, I really want to grow my list, but right now I would be happy if I was getting just as many people in as I was getting out. Well, after working with me for a couple of weeks, she ended up adding about net 3. So she had about 3 new people per week being added to her list and being added to a community. Now, it may not seem really big at the moment, but that was her success metric. She's like, I am in the place where I want to be growing. I don't want to be losing more than I'm having coming in. And her big thing was she was building a community, and she's like, yeah, I'm not getting new people except when I do these huge things that are exhausting. So now she's getting like 3 new people a week. She's like, this is amazing. I think her goal was like 5 new people a month or something. So she's super happy with 3 new people fantastic. A week, right? But that's what's really important when we talk about email, when we talk about any kind of marketing, right? What does success look like for you? Don't get too tied up in those vanity metrics that don't really mean anything. Even a click rate doesn't necessarily mean anything unless they actually go and do what you want them to do on the next page. It's a good indicator. Are you going in the right direction? Is it interesting enough for people, right? There's all different kinds of ways for you to look at that, but it's not the end all be all that most people treat it as.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah,
so, Sharon, why don't you deconstruct it for us?
It was awesome. So just to recap some of that, because we got into a lot of good stuff. But what Kimberly said was we want to stick to, or a good average is about 5 to 7 emails when you're bringing on a copywriter, when you're starting a sequence being a couple of emails to achieve a goal. That was gold, Kimberly, that you said that. And about 2.5 weeks, again, similar to the dating analogy, just making sure that you want to build a relationship and not just go for marriage right off the bat, that you set goals for anything you do with your audience, whether emails, social media, that you know exactly what you're measuring and that you know what success looks like so that you can celebrate at the end of it. Kimberly, I just wanted to jump in a little bit deeper into that sequence. You said, okay, 2.5 weeks, 5 to 7 emails. That's how you know you're giving value, that big word value. So what does value look like? Because for a new entrepreneur, we don't know what that means.
So value looks like, are you helping that person achieve their goal? Okay, so you'll probably have an idea as to what your people are struggling with, right? You know who your client is, you know what their problem is. Are you moving them along that path? Are you giving them something to help them move closer? Now, of course, you don't necessarily want to give away everything, right? Because you want them to pay you for your knowledge in the future. But for example, I have over 100 episodes of my podcast. So great value would be, you know what? People ask me a lot about email subject lines and email open rates. So I'm going to point them to the episode where I rant about why email open rates are useless.
Oh, excellent.
And what you should do instead, which is an entire episode about, look, your open rate doesn't matter. What matters is, are you achieving the success you set out with your email, right? What we just talked about here. Okay, that gives value. That helps that person realize, oh, I'm looking at the wrong thing, but I can still get closer to my goal of whatever that looks like, right? Maybe you're a nutritionist or you're a health or wellness coach, right? And people come to you because the guide they downloaded was like the 5 superfoods to jumpstart your metabolism in the morning. Okay, let's just say. Awesome. What else do they need to know? Why are they wanting to jumpstart their metabolism? Are they struggling with feeling tired in the morning? Are they not finding enough time in their day? Are they looking to jumpstart their metabolism because they want to chase after their kids? Like if it's chase after their kids, maybe you're actually giving advice about parenting. If it's about waking up refreshed, maybe it's productivity or time management advice. What relates to why they joined? What relates to the big problem they are struggling with? That they decided, yeah, you know what, it's worth it for me to be bombarded by yet another person in my inbox, right? Because all of us we have this dream of inbox zero, and guess what? It's never going to happen unless we've got like 10 people and a software tool to help it happen. But you know what? It was enough. And they knew, because by this point, everyone knows, if I give you my email address, you're going to email me, and you're going to email me more than once. Cool. Mm-hmm. Okay. So they know that, right? So what can you give them to make it worth their while to continue to open your messages? And a really important thing is, making that connection. There is value in human connection. Okay. If you just lead with facts, lead with facts, lead with facts, lead with facts, guess what? Nobody is going to keep reading your emails because they're boring and they can go Google the information. Anyone can Google. Okay. What you want to do is to create that connection of people who are like, yeah, I want to hear from her, right? If I told you that story, right, about how I realized that you need to be yourself in your emails and how important that was, that people remember. They remember the story, they remember the lesson because it was in story format, right? If I have a subject line about the barking seals on your homepage, again, people are like, wait, what does that mean? Or if I tell you, what does sci-fi, dance music, and travel have to do with email marketing? That's enough for you to be like, I want to learn more. And by the way, those are actual subject lines that I send out. But you want to have that connection. So when I say give value, I mean lead people along the path of why they came to you in the first place, right? Whatever that looks like. And as long as you're doing that, as long as you're helping them in some way, they're going to keep opening your stuff because they're like, oh, this person, she's got great emails. Now, no one cares about a great email. What they're really saying is every time I open her email, I learned something. Every time I open her email, I get something out of it, right? I could use the word value, but really it's, it was enough. It was worth that person's time to take the 15 minutes, the 5 minutes, the 30 seconds to read the email.
Nice.
Wow, I like that. And Kimberly, I think I've been noticing this in how you've answered every single one of Mary and I's questions. And it took me about 1.5 years to figure this out. But you keep putting yourself into the audience's shoes. I mean, you said it earlier when Mary was saying, okay, well, I just unsubscribe. You said, well, what if they are answering, taking care of their kids and they step away from their computer? What if they're on vacation, right? And so you're thinking through the eyes of the person opening the email and therefore understanding that they're busy. So it's not a bad thing to multiple email them, not bombard, but multiple email them. And yes. Then now you're saying the same thing of like, okay, well, if they can just Google it, then they're not getting value from you. But if you're telling them personal experience stories, that was really hard for me because, if we want to be the expert, we want to share all of our information, right? But if you're trying to nurture someone and build that relationship, you have to think differently. You have to think from their side. And for most of us, that's a deliberate action to take ourselves out of our head and into theirs. But I think that's so brilliant in every way that you've answered every one of our questions. And I think why we need expert copywriters in our business. So my question to you is, okay, so when do we know that we need a Kimberly in our camp?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually, because here's the thing. As entrepreneurs, I have found most of us are really reluctant to do a few things. Number one is to put ourselves first. And number two is to ask for help. So that's a really great question for you, right? I am a digital native, if you will, right? I grew up with the internet. There were a few years there before it had actually debuted, but you know what? I grew up with the internet. Half of the people in my family are IT people. I can figure this stuff out. Okay, I can. And I was a digital Facebook user, right? I wasn't the first tier because I wasn't in college yet when it premiered, but I joined in 2006. Okay, I think it launched in 2004, right? I was one of the first users because that was my generation, right? But when it comes to scheduling my social media, when it comes to figuring out what's wrong with my tech, I get somebody else to do it. Why? Because it's not where I should be spending my time. And it's a long learning curve. So a few things to consider when trying to hire a copywriter is number one is, again, that same question we asked earlier. What will success look like? So, my contracts actually say something along the lines of, look, there's so many different things going on in your business. There's your market, there's your audience, there's your offer, there's what's happening in the world at large. Hello, pandemic, right? There's all of these different things I can't control. So I'm not going to guarantee that what I write for you will double, triple, 10x, whatever your results, right? Because there's so many different other factors, right? But what I can tell you is I'm going to work with you. I'm going to collaborate with you. I'm going to walk you through the process to make sure you understand what we're doing. And I'm going to make sure that everything I write has your approval before moving to that final stage so that you know this was what you wanted, right? Before going on. So when looking for a copywriter, you need to have a conversation with yourself about what's really important, right? What do you hope to get as a result of working with this person, right? Not everything I write, including like a welcome series, is necessarily going to lead to a sale, right? My welcome series is one of the most common projects I work on, but it doesn't lead to a sale generally. Occasionally, depending on the person's, audience, it will. But they can't measure that in, oh, I hired this person and I got a 10x return on investment. Why? Because it's not directly related to a sale of any kind. So what does that success look like for you? So before you do anything, define what the success for that project is going to look like. And then have a couple of conversations, right? Don't go with the first person you find generally, just because you want to make sure that you're going to like working with them. You understand their communication style. Really, it's hard to say like, ooh, these are the things you need to know. But when looking for a copywriter and knowing when it's time to get a copywriter, it's often, is it something that you know enough about that you can write about it? Or is it something where like, you know what, I really need this to work. I should get some outside help for it. When it's writing to your own list, it's you, right? It's you, it's your stuff. So at the beginning, I would tell most people, don't hire somebody. Do it yourself. Why? Because you need to know about your audience. You need to know about who's on your list. You need to know about what they want. And if you've got 5 people on your list, is it worth it for you to hire somebody for $1,500, $3,000, $5,000 to write a bunch of emails for you? If you don't even know what those people want yet, right? So you have to get to know your people first. So you have to know your audience. You have to know what they want. And you have to be able to communicate that to somebody else before you can hire a copywriter. But yeah, if you don't have the time for a particular project, if your time is better spent elsewhere, right? A really great way to look at it when talking about like budgeting for a copywriter is how much time will you spend on it? And then what is your internal hourly rate? Like if you're a consultant or a coach, you probably have like, here's an hour session with me. But if you don't have that, well, okay, if you've got some other kind of thing, break that down to how many hours it takes you. And then that's your internal hourly rate, right? If it's going to take you 20 hours and your internal hourly rate is $200, that's what, $40,000 for you to do it yourself. If you can hire somebody else to do it for 10, I think you've just saved yourself $30,000. So, those are some things to consider, right? Is how is this going to help your business? Looking for somebody who will ask the right kinds of questions, and looking for somebody who knows what they're talking about. I mean, I think I've answered your question.
Yeah, no, that was
I'm going to keep going, but I think that's good.
That was so great. I was like, keep going, keep going. Thank you so much.
I mean, copywriter, it's hard, right? You need to have a conversation, but oftentimes if you're not sure, if it's the first time, if you don't really know what to expect, asking questions about their process, asking questions about what's included, asking questions about timeline. Those are all really great. Oftentimes people are like, okay, so they'll ask me, okay, what does it really look like to work with you? Like, tell me this process. What am I going to get? Right. And I'm like, okay, sure. Yeah. I don't just write words. If I just wrote words, you could go to Fiverr. I don't care, right? I don't just do that though, right? Because there is method to the madness. There is a whole bunch of underlying psychology and frameworks to everything I create for my clients. I'm like, look, as part of what working with me is strategy. I'm going to explain to you why we do the things that we do. You're going to get a review of it. So here's what it looks like, right? We'll have a first conversation. We'll hammer out the details. You'll get your contract. You'll sign that. You'll do your 50% deposit. We'll get on a kickoff call, reiterate all of those goals, make sure nothing's changed in the time between our first conversation and this one, figure out who I'm talking to, who is my touch person, all of that. We'll have an interview where I interview you to get your story, to get more of your voice. I'll review your past materials. I will do a little bit of listening or ask you about your particular clients and what their big needs and stuff are. Then if it's a welcome series, right, I'll give you an outline of the 5 emails. Here's email number 1. Here's the 3 points we're going to make. Here's email number 2. Here's the 2 points we're going to make, right? You approve that. I write the full emails. You get it. You can say yes. We can hop on a call to discuss the copy if you'd like. And then you get 1 round of revisions. So people are like, oh, you have a process. You know what you're doing. Cool. If the answer is, oh, well, you tell me what you want to write and I'll write it for you, then is that the right person for you? Especially if you don't know what you don't know about what you need, right? So that is a really great way, right? Ask about their process, ask about timeline, ask about how long or what you're going to get out of that arrangement.
I love it.
Gosh, so amazing. And the internal hourly rate, right? We've heard it a couple of times, but it took a while till I first heard it, and I was like, oh my gosh, life changing. Do you know what your hourly rate should be? And can you have the discipline and self-care, as Kimberly said, to hold to it and value yourself enough to ask for help?
Yes.
That's really, really good.
Or Kimberly.
I was going to say, I heard this story about a guy who's a coach or whatever, and he charges like, he's big corporate, people pay him huge contracts, right? So I think it was something like, $1,000 an hour is his hourly rate. And he tried to like set up his own printer and he couldn't do it. And he was troubleshooting. And then he was on hold with the tech department for like 2 or 3 hours on a Saturday. And his wife was nagging. She's like, look, we were supposed to go to dinner with these people. Are you going to be ready in time? He's like, yeah, I'll be ready in time. He makes it to dinner on time, but his wife's mad at him because she spent the whole day messing with this stupid computer and stupid printer. And finally he hires the neighborhood kid for $50 to set it up. And the guy's like, wait a minute. So you're telling me you spent $8,000 trying to avoid hiring somebody for $50 to set it up for you?
Yeah.
And he's like,
I mean,
oh, yeah, I
yeah,
did.
looking at it that way, it's just like I can tell people, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Yes.
And it's just the same thing. Like I have a background in tech. I've been on Facebook as soon as it became available to .edus. I was one of the first Twitter users. Great from a personal perspective. I know how to use it to stay in touch with friends and family, but learning social media as a business owner, that's a whole different beast. Just like I know how to write an email, but writing an email to potential clients is a whole different skill. So I think it's, again, bringing in those experts that can balance out what your strengths are. And if you don't like writing emails, hire somebody who can work with you and help you. And
absolutely,
down the road, you might go, you know what? Okay, I got this. I can do this. Or it's just like, I take my paperwork to my accountant, because while I know how to balance my books, I don't want to be bogged down trying to go through the chart of accounts going, okay, now should this be this or should this be this? So I pay my accountant to do it for me.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the same thing that you're saying here. So Sharon, I know that we have run quite the gamut today.
And so much more that we want to unpack.
That's right. So we may be bringing Kimberly back as well if she's open to it.
Happy to chat.
But Kimberly, how can...
Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say, how can people get in touch with you?
Absolutely. You can reach me at contact@theaudienceconverter.com. Mention Sister Street in the subject line, so I know you came from this wonderful podcast and that these wonderful people sent you to me. But if you would like a little bit of behind the scenes looks at what makes a great welcome series, and of course, to get my own, you can sign up at theaudienceconverter.com/giveaway. I have a guide on crafting the perfect welcome series, the top 7 tricks to get more opens, more clicks, and more engagement from email number 1. And these are the same philosophies and frameworks I use to help my clients get up to 80% open rates on their welcome series. Woo! So if that is something that you want to do, if you want to create that really great relationship with people from email number 1, you can grab it there.
I love it. So Kimberly, just based on that description, it sounds like you know what you're doing.
Just a little bit, maybe, potentially.
No, I mean, that was like perfect, because I know exactly what I'm getting. I know exactly how it's going to help me, which as somebody that was listening to this show, I would go, oh, okay, I want to get on her email list, because in her description, I already know that I'm going to get value. I know what my action is that I need to do. So for me as somebody putting myself in the shoes of an audience member, it's like, wow, this is great because you just modeled everything that we want you to do in your email. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. And if you want the story about the barking seals and how science fiction can help you with your email marketing, you'll get those emails too.
Whoa, okay. So, Sharon, why don't you wrap us up and tell us what's up next?
Yes. So once again, go and visit Kimberly Weitkamp at audienceconverter.com/giveaway for her giveaway, and the email contact@audienceconverter.com. I think I got those right, Kimberly.
The audienceconverter.com. Yeah.
The audienceconverter.com. Thank you.
Yes.
But please do visit her, learn and get on her list so that you can be more effective with your nurturing, with your audience. And now you know when is the right time to bring an expert copywriter on to your team so that you can be more effective and get to that dinner that you need to get to as well. So we're just so grateful, Kimberly. Thank you so much for spending time with us, teaching us and our audience what they need to know to build a stronger audience and stronger success, so that they can see it in front of them.
And so for those
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it was our pleasure. And I was going to say, for those of you playing along at home, if you sign up for our list, you can see how Sharon and I apply Kimberly's advice to our welcome sequence. And we're going to ask you for your feedback as well.
Yes, absolutely. So the next few weeks, we'll continue on different strategies, different thoughts, different conversations around nurturing your audience, making it fun, because Mary and I are about engagement and experience. And we hope to have Kimberly back again very, very soon. But aloha for now, and thank you so much again.
Bye for now.
Bye.
We look forward to having you tune in next week for the rest of the conversation. Thanks for listening to the Sister Street Show with Mary Nunley and Sharon Adagiro. To learn more about the topics discussed today, visit sisterstreet.show.